Thank you so much for the opportunity. We are really excited here to be in the Travel Payouts Conference. And obviously, now we believe also to be part of the most exciting part of travel, which is the tours and activities, which is basically the reason why people travel. And obviously, on this specific, let's say, session, myself, Fernando, and Roberto will be really focusing on this specific product, explaining a little bit not only the potential, uh, putting really kind of a setting regarding the current crisis, but also giving you a lot of tips in terms of how really to maximize your potential when offering tours and activities to our audience. So myself and Roberto, we both work in a strategic partnerships team at Musement. Our focus is really to help travel companies mostly to really analyze with them their booking flow, their business, and give really suggestions on how they can really offer and sell tours and activities to their clientele. So Roberto has a lot of experience in terms of managing affiliates, even before he joined Musement. So he's really managing actively the affiliates from travel payouts. Myself, I worked previously as well to this position at Viator, TripAdvisor, and also was on that side in terms of managing and working together with a team of content writers to find out the right type of topics. So that really, in terms of sales, that could be maximized and offering tours and activities, right? The type of attractions, destinations, and so on. So jumping really into the presentation itself, first of all, I think it's quite important to give you really a kind of a notion or the concept of what is actually Musement. So Musement is a TUI company. So it was purchased by or acquired by TUI 2 years ago. It's been operating for nearly 7 years. And at its DNA is really the concept of curation. So offering tours and activities worldwide and in over 800 destinations, but really having, let's say, a focus on getting the right types of suppliers in our destinations. As you probably would guess, when you go abroad and you think about visiting a destination or an attraction or writing about an attraction like this, the Eiffel Tower, you might end up having dozens of suppliers and dozens, even more, like hundreds of combinations of different products. And we go after really finding the right suppliers, the right products for your clients. So it's really our focus. In terms of, let's say, characterization now of the tours and activities segment, this is quite important because it's really the segment that has been receiving the largest amount of investment. There is a lot of attention towards it, and it's explaining to give really a context. It's important to give a context as to why. So it's a segment number one that has a very low degree of digitalization, as you would guess. And by this, it really means that currently around 21% of the companies are in some shape or form connected online. They're able to load their products online, they're able to sell their products online, and the large majority of those operators actually are in destination. Can be really operators that have no interest whatsoever to sell online, but really the majority of them is really it's a highly fragmented really industry there, sometimes complex for many of them to introduce them to the online components. They wait for customers to book in destination. But luckily, the most important relevant products worldwide, most of them are already available. So this is really a good component, but there is really a growth process linked to this segment. On the other hand, is an extremely important segment for the search funnel. This means that a lot of people think about buying tours and activities even before they book the hotel and the flight. Obviously, you want to go to a destination to do something, to see something. That's why we say that tours and activities is really the why of the travel industry, is why people travel, why they want to visit a certain destination. So it really feeds into the why, and it's really the main reason why people actually tend to book a flight or a hotel in the first place. So we will see during the presentation the results of some questionnaires that clearly demonstrates that people can book tours and activities before they book the flight in a hotel, while they book the flight in a hotel, and afterwards. So there is a good opportunity in terms of the market recovery to properly explore the search funnel and the booking flow. And this is something that Roberto will be focusing in quite a lot of detail. Obviously, during the current crisis, tourism activity segment went from a record-selling year of last year, 2019, from $254 billion to effective at the moment being in a condition of having 72% of year-on-year revenue decrease. And this is even at the back of January and February, which were record-selling months. for our company, for TUI, and for majority of operators. So as a result, we expect at best for next year to have half of the value of the revenue value of 2019. So it's going to be a slow recovery. And we will, during this presentation, also identify customer segments. It's quite important, rather than saying what customers will do overall in the future, is really to segment them, because there will be segments, customer segments, that will be acting faster and starting to transact and to enjoy experiences faster than other segments. It's important to divide, because travel effectively will be different. So jumping now in terms of explaining the types of product categories, obviously it's a very messy in a certain way segment, because we try to pile here and compile dozens of categories into just 8, and sometimes it's not very easy. But you'll see here some products which actually are most of the times booked after the flight in the hotel, are booked, many of them in destination in the last minute in front of the museum, and many of them are booked before the flight in the hotel has been even considered. So Disney Paris, theme parks, a product that definitely tends to be quite often booked before the transportation and the accommodation has been booked. On the other hand, performances might probably not so often be the case, but definitely sports events, yes. Activities and adventure, the fact that you might be dreaming doing that helicopter tour in the Grand Canyon, or that safari ride in Dubai, are definitely exciting components that led you to decide to go to a certain destination. And then once you make the booking of the flight and accommodation, you might go to the tours and activities as well. Wellness, a very important component and a motivation for traveling. And we're also going to explain why wellness will be so important as well in the market recovery, to kind of a certain twists as a result of the current virus and the current crisis. But food and wine, an amazing add-on product, a romantic dinner experience in certain destinations, for instance, or nightlife, obviously. So this will be just examples of categories that are quite present in the tours and activities segment, that at the same time will allow you to have, to basically explore your creative juices, so that you can see how a lot of these products can be exploited into new kinds of content, topics, themes, or linked to your current products, in case you're already trying to cross-sell or upsell tours and activities. So now the tours and activities segment is quite important to consider. Again, when are these products actually booked? So 35% actually book these products before any other element of the trip. And then there is the majority, more than half of them will book at the same time as a flight in a hotel, or even in destination. It's important to consider that, for example, in our case, 97% of the products can be booked within 72 hours and 91% within 24 hours. So that component of, let's say, connectivity, that 21% of the operators are connected, is taken more and more to the extreme to allow those bookings to be taken in destination in the last minute. And I cannot tell you how many times I've been standing in front of an attraction in a big waiting line and then was able to book immediately. And this is even more important now at the moment with the current crisis. Many attractions at the moment that were not bookable online or offer the possibility to purchase locally in order to avoid queues have been moving now to an online perspective only. So this is going to be as well one of the trends you will be seeing in the industry quite a lot over the next few months. Why actually, people decide to book a certain activity? I always wanted to do it. It was a key driver of the trip. Over 60% of the travelers confess that doing a certain activity was the reason why they decided to travel. So this might actually also put you some ideas in terms of how can actually place a topic, a theme of an activity as, let's say, as a composition of a package, or how can actually I better inform customers to what they could be doing and where they could be staying in order to enjoy that experience. So think about these components rather than sometimes, which has been the classic approach of considering that it's a product book at the very end. So there is a lot of opportunity in this segment. And again, if I have mentioned it, is the third largest segment in the travel industry. So again, even ahead of car rental. So this is just additional ideas and reasons why people travel, which I'll pass ahead. So here, it's another component that maybe just to allow you to think, okay, does this really fit to my business? Selling tours and activities, actually, I find it hard. It will not fit any of your businesses, because from technology companies, if you're approaching on a real technology integration, B2B, to offer to your clients it's an excellent product to be placed in terms of the booking flow, packaged or a standalone. But even if you are, let's say, a platform, a hotelier, a transportation company, cruises as well, and travel sites overall, all of them have the capability and the ability to offer this specific product. So these are examples of companies who actually do so already. In the case of, let's say, TUI, for instance, there is not only the aspect of the online, but also the offline. But here is really pure online. All these players have an excellent approach in terms of how they offer tours and activities. And you can do so in several areas, in several, let's say, segments of your business. Again, Roberto will be focusing again on the flow. We're showing an example and how you could do this to your business. So to give you a little bit of inspiration on that side. Now, a less rosy topic, the current crisis, obviously, the pandemic. So effectively, in January, we saw as a company, Amusements and TUI Group, overall the best recording sales month ever in our history. Things were going extremely well. And then we have effectively the crisis, which brought us to a situation where basically out of nowhere, 85% of the bookings of tours and activities were decreased year on year. It's a reality that has impacted the segment considerably, and it continues to impact. There is a large component of uncertainty in the classic tours and activities products of when attractions can actually open. Or if they open, will they be open for long? Because the moment, let's say, closures in terms of areas, regions, cities, countries, lockdowns start taking place again, and new health and safety measures will take place. Will be attraction closures, a lot of instability in terms of tours and activities operators. So again, we're going to a moment where a lot of attractions, even if they open, they need to limit the amount of people getting in. They cannot sell as many tickets. So again, we have to keep on testing how the situation prolongs and develops. On the other hand, we have also very good examples of some partners that decide to focus themselves on outdoor activities, on things to do out there in the nature. And some of them have very good examples of results, even though they recorded sales year on year of around 70 to 80% of what they had last year by focusing in this specific segment as an alternative. So there are definitely opportunities in that component as we continue to, let's say, go towards a potential market recovery for next year. So there are very positive signs as well from other travel products. Many of our partners will focus in terms of hotels, flights, packages, mostly recorded in terms of year on year, a growth of around 1.5 to 2.5%. Or times, from the sales they had in 2019. So whenever someone in 2018 was booking holidays for 2019 summer and 2019 to 2020, if you compare that with what happened this year for 2021, there was a growth of 1.5 to 2.5 times. And a lot of it has to do as well with the communicating of the right type of message. The free cancellation, the health and safety, the notion of communicating those same destinations under a new approach and having bigger social distancing between people. So we'll see again a few examples ahead in the presentation of type of messages you should be sending to the users, but there are definitely positive signs of recovery for summer next year. Tours and activities, in this case, will be a product that will be booked for sure in the very last minute, because again, to be able to avoid attractions closures and reopening uncertainty, it will be something booked in the last minute. So we definitely see good signs, because obviously if people travel, they would like to enjoy the destination. Now here, in terms of TUI, also understood that it's important not to consider all the customers as a silo, or as a block, all of them together. We divided actually them into 8 main segments to try to explore and analyze which ones will be actually returning or will be the contributors for the market recovery in an earlier fashion. And we basically highlighted 2 main segments: the smart tanners, which is Sunseeker, deal-driven families, sun and beach, social distancing, and that will be one of the components, and travelistas, the young, confident travelers, adventurers, culture and exploration is all driven. Those will be essentially the 2 segments that we definitely will highlight in terms of recovery. We can see that there is a lot in terms of the travelistas will be the first ones to start traveling, but the bookings definitely will come from the smart tanners. In terms of their overall characteristics and how they differ, number one, in terms of what's in common, in the sense of escaping the lockdown, to go out there, to enjoy the destinations, is definitely something that both of them have in common. The need for safety, but we see the Travelist is definitely focusing probably initially on the lower budgets, but also another component which is quite common with them is digital enablement. So the fact that they want activities and experiences that can be booked online, can be booked in advance, immediate confirmation, all these components are extremely important. We see that in terms of the segment that will take the longest to recover will be the senior segment, and that is obviously with a lot of concern in terms of health and safety. So it will take a little bit of some time until that trust will be definitely recaptured once again, and things are, and we can all actually be able to offer a safety message to these specific segments. Another important component is really where they'll be traveling, and these specific segments are traveling obviously domestically. They are traveling to neighboring countries, so a lot of domestic and regional travel, and this is not really so much, let's say, on the novelty for all of you, but again, you add to this to the ability to cancel in the last minute. So it might give you some ideas or components of how you actually can address your destination for the near future. Now, let's also consider the topics, and the importance of this specific, the next few slides will be to give really transition for what used to be really the message on the global trends into pre-COVID times and what is really the new focus. And the number one is really the fact that we can see that from a digital connectivity only perspective and focus, we can see that at the moment people are really having a high demand for digital services, for interaction, for communication, to be able to communicate with those brands, to understand how reliable those same products are, to be able to book them online. Trust, reliability, and human interaction are very important. For many years, we talked about digitalization only based on basically avoiding almost the human interaction, a lot of automation processes. It's interesting that you see that, for example, there is a need to connect and to have, let's say, someone answering on the other side to give you an honest and unbiased opinion of what you can do, what you should be doing in your destination. This is definitely a very good tip and component for content writers to be authentic, to be really transparent as you always have been, but most certainly at these specific times. Going green, rediscovering nature, got to basically the need of promoting sustainable traveling. How to get to a destination in a sustainable way, how traveling by car, by your own means, by train, became such an important component at the specific moment, and why air travel might take slightly bit more in terms of fully recover. Wellness and food tourism, exercising came as well with an important focus in terms of tourism and well-being as well. So finally as well, other important components in terms of TUI that we have been focusing is really on the individual and independent traveler. The fact that a lot of customers and a lot of travelers will be really trying to avoid crowded places and mass tourism destinations. Obviously, mass tourism at the moment is kind of a bit of an overstatement, but effectively, many of them will want to have at least certainty that in the most classic destinations that they can be visiting certain places, certain spots in a safe manner, that they want to know that the classic products in small groups of 10, 15, 20 people maybe have been redesigned to offer a safer experience. So individual experiences, domestic trips to nearby countries, short breaks, activities or holiday activities that you can self-cater and basically be able to go on your own, select your own products and your own food and enjoy the destination in a new manner. All these kind of messages will be quite important. In terms of obviously the social media component and the power of social has been basically redesigned into the component of the aspect of showing really yourself in the destination, but showing also the new face of the destinations. And we all of us probably still remember many of the images coming out from Venice, those pure crystalline waters when there was no mass tourism at the moment affecting that specific destination, and how actually that gave in so many people the will and the willingness and excitement to be back to those destinations to travel once again. Perfect. So basically here now, I leave the words now to my colleague, Roberto. He will be focusing really on the guest journey. And again, one of the main opportunities in terms of this recovery is really to look seriously to the way you currently market and promote yourself, the travel products to your customers, and opportunities you might have before the hotel and the flight gets booked, and afterwards, even to the interaction in destination and post-travel. So
thank you very much, Fernando. I'll share my screen in order to start discussing this part with all the attendees of this TPAS 2020. So thank you very much for your attention, first of all. I don't know if you can already see my screen. The idea is to go together through the guest journey of some ideal customers that they want to book their holidays, and which are the touch points that they will encounter during their guest journey, and on which of these touch points we should start interacting with them for selling them during activities. This is particularly relevant for you if, first of all, if you're one of the players that want to sell Tourist activities, and second, even if you're not trying to sell Tourist activities in that specific part of the guest journey, because you have to be aware that probably your competitors or the other websites are doing this kind of activities. So knowing that your potential customer have received requests or suggestions from other players is really, really important when you are creating your strategy. So let's start this guest journey together. First of all, we can see this family composed by Nia and Stefan and their daughter, and they are both active on socials, they use their mobile phone, so they are the perfect couple that can start booking their holidays online. They are planning this trip. They want to go to Tenerife. They want to go on April of next year. So they start scrolling on the web. They start looking for suggestions. They want to stay in an hotel for 10 days. So as Fernando said, most of the time, the hotel and the destination are part of the decision making for deciding where to go. But what you will do in the place, it's one of the most important drivers. So let's see what we can do to suggest them the best tour activities or the best things to do in the destination. So they book online in December, so 4 months in advance. So what we can do pre-travel to suggest them tour activities or activities to do when they arrive. First of all, we have to consider that a lot of people will book before actually taking the hotel and the accommodation and the way of reaching the destination, but a lot of people will not be ready to start buying tour activities way before arriving in destination, because there will be something with the weather or the disponibilities, or whenever you have kids, you know that probably you have to be a little more careful with their health before the tour itself. So in this part, most of the consumers will be exploring for suggestions. So if you want to intercept this kind of customers, you will have to write content that are very inspirational, that are really emotional, because you have to conquer a customer that is just looking for beautiful things to do, is probably not still ready to buy. What we will do when 2 weeks are passed, we are still looking, we have to remember to our customers that their trip is approaching, that there are beautiful things to do. Maybe there are things that need to be booked way before to be available. So it's probably a good moment, if you're doing this kind of activities, to start working on some retargeting campaign in order to intercept the customer that is not currently thinking on the job or on the trip, but maybe it's working or is scrolling to wish happy birthday to a friend. So it's a good moment to remind them that travel is approaching and maybe it's a good time to start. In fact, maybe while there is this happy birthday moment, maybe you can start suggesting a discount code. It can be a good way to push for a booking, or maybe suggesting the best product that you have in that destination, or in this case, still trying to look for the wow effect with a whale and dolphin watching catamaran trip. So something really interesting for them to involve them and try to let them scroll your website. As we are approaching the tool, if you have the need for them to interact with your website or with your app or for a registration process, as soon as we arrive really close to the trip, it's a good moment to start asking them to do this kind of action, because whenever they will be really close to the ship date, they will be more interested in other things that we will see in a moment. In fact, as soon as we are in 1 month, typically from the booking date, they will start actually looking for experience to do. So what and where we can buy the experience that we will do in destination. So we are really close to the booking date. It's 15 days before. What you should do to actually interact with them. A good way to interact with them is, of course, the email marketing. The possibility to create some kind of hype for the trip and maybe working on all the experience that you have to book in advance, otherwise they will not be available. And maybe if you have the possibility, link these needs with a little discount that can help your customers to be more involved and interested in booking from you, because as said, many players in this booking flow will contact constantly these potential customers. So maybe you are a travel blog that have brought a magnificent article on what to do in Florence, what to do in Venice, but in the same time, the same company from which you bought the accommodation is suggesting other things. So you have to interact, you have to consider these competitors as well when you write your content. Now we are really close to the travel date, it's 1 to 7 days. Now the customers are really interested in practical things. So if you want to interact with them, you should speak to a person that is actually really ready to buy, really ready to organize his trip. So they want to buy transfers. So if you have this kind of product, this is a perfect time to start sending them messages. They want to know what they can do as soon as they are in destination. So no need to push for magnificent things, but that are expired or that are no longer available. So really important to be on time for the communication. So if you have things that they can do as soon as they are on the destination, this is the right moment to interact with them. If you are planning to build content for this kind of customers, so the one that is looking in the last days, you should speak of these topics. Really important, if you're offering to your customers customer service or a way to contact you if there are some problems, remember to give them all the contacts before the travel, because you want to be there if something happens. Otherwise, it will be impossible for them to reach you, and usually we see that the review and the customer experience really rely on the assistant. So if you have this kind of services, remember to send contact way before the travel date. Let's continue. And this dancing shark, we are finally arrived at the hotel. So when they are in destination, the person are really ready to buy. So let's consider that they want to be informed on things to do. They want to know what happened in destination. So if I'm in Paris, I really want to go to the tower, to the Eiffel Tower. So it's the first thing that they want to find in your communication if you are suggesting me things to do in destination. If you are offering local help, this is the right moment to send contact. And of course, if you are building your content for this kind of customer, so if you're a travel blog, if you are a pure affiliate website, remember that people in this point of the funnel are really ready to buy, because they want to buy for that morning, that afternoon, the day after. So you have to build content that are easy to read, easy to scroll, with plain and simple CTA that say buy here. We know the importance of build the content for SEO reason or to create a strong link building, but the content created for this kind of customer should be really plain and focused on sell the activities and be clear and ready for them. So in this example, they use their mobile phone to book a boat trip experience online. And if you have used all this information correctly, probably it was through your website. But something may happen in between. So it's really, really important to be there for the customer, not only before the booking, so to convince them that you are his best services or the best guide or the best possible solution. We have to be there for the customer. So it's important to show clearly if something is have a cancellation policy, if the cancellation is free, how many hours in advance they have to cancel the experience. If the experience is cancelled by the supplier, how we will inform the customers. So we know that most of the time, whenever you are really focused on selling more, you forget that customers may return, may speak about you. So it's really, really important to build the trust with your customers. Otherwise, you will have one sell, but you will never sell with them again. So really, really be focused on having the best experience for the client, and more clients will arrive as a consequence. So another important way of try to be involved with the customer is actually try to segment their trip in different stages. So we have spoke about pre-travel, we have spoke about being in destination, so with clear content, with clear CTA, with a plain way to book the tour, the activities, the tickets through your website. But you have to remember that people will be in different stages during the travel. So if you have the information when the people will leave, as you have done with the first days, you will have to send them a clear instruction on how they can take the transfer home, if they can do something last minute that they can maybe have not done. So this is maybe a right moment to suggest some niche product or things to do in the last minute way. So our suggestion in this case is to be clear, to be simple, because people are not looking for the best thing to do right now. They are looking for something simple. They are really close to the departure date. So it's more important at this point to have a clear solution for arriving at the airport that the magnificent tour that they will have done in the first days. Now, another important things to consider whenever we are thinking of the guest journey is that people used to travel in different way during the years, and usually, in particular with the interaction of the social networks, people share a lot of their experience, and their friends, their family will start interacting with them as soon as they are back home or when they are in destination. So it's way important to build this kind of contents in a way that they are easy to share, easy to send, clear for changing languages or being adaptable to different kind of customer if needed. If you have the possibility, send survey to your customers, ask them for impression, ask them for suggestion. Of course, another things that may be interesting if you have the possibility to serve their source market as well, is maybe try to cross-sell to the client even things to do or recommendation for things to do in their home cities or things to do near their home. So maybe this German family travel to Tenerife, but if you have products in Berlin or in Hamburg, maybe it's a new customer that can be interesting for you, even for things to do in destination for domestic travel. Of course, this is really dependent on your offer, but keep in mind that this customer may return to you if you have served them with a good level of services. Now, let's try to wrap up in order to have a clear idea on the most important touch point during the guest journey. So there is a first part of research before booking. In this part, there are some customers that will be driven by the attraction, by the tour, by the experience itself. So if you are building the content for this kind of customers, remember that they want the wow effect. They want to be, they want clarity, they want the plain message, but it's a moment in which they are really looking for the experience that will drive all the trip. So it's really important to be there with the right content. Whenever they have booked in the window between the booking date and the departure date, it's important to be there for the customer, to suggest the best thing to do, and to be present whenever they have problem or whenever they need assistance. In destination, you have to build ad hoc content or ad hoc solution for them to book. So it can be a pop-up notification in your app, can be a content built to be easy to book, can be a travel blog post with a clear big CTA, book now, but have to be some content that it's not inspirational, have to be easy, clear, and straightforward to the booking process. Don't forget that once your customers will be back, they will start speaking about you, they will maybe travel again. So if you treat well your customer, they will be back and will be a customers for you again. Now, what are the main best practice that we can consider when offering tour-end activities online, considering this guest journey that we have just seen together? So if you consider the full customer journeys, you will see that you have that your client is not just one. We have so together with Fernando that we have different type of clients. So if you consider all the kind of clients and how they will interact with the customer journey, you will have all the weapons that you need to sell them the best solution for tour-end activities and to build the right content to interact with them. It's important to suggest them and to be present with more destinations, but remember that to be relevant for them, it's more important to give to your customers all the information on few destinations, to have all the content that you need, to have all the information that serve a lot of destinations with a small amount of content. This is both important for the customers and for ranking your website on certain keywords. So sometimes it's better to have fewer content, but with a really good quality, good assets, good photos. If original are even better, and this is even better for SEO ranking your website for that specific keyword. Another important suggestion is develop product comparison page for different product categories. So if you are selling transfer to a specific destination, a comparison to the best way to reach an hotel in Venice, for example, that is known as a city which is a little different to move between different parts of the city, can be a page with a really, really high conversion rate, because you are giving to your customer all the information that they need to actually reach their hotel, their destination. And in the same time, you are suggesting them the best solution comparing all the ones that are on the market. This is particularly relevant for this kind of products, can be relevant for tour activities as well, but on that case, maybe the best shot would be selecting on your, before creating the content, the product that you think is best, and set in the content all the reason why after your comparison you have choose that product. Even better if you have took that tour or visit that attraction. 4 point is probably one of the most important in this list: declaring your booking CTAs. Maybe some of the visitors will be more interested in the content because they are scrolling or looking for that famous wow effect, but a lot of them will be in booking mode or are in destination, as Fernando said, will be in front of the museum. More probably the ticket box is closed because of the COVID, because of the situation. They want to book, they want to enter in the museum, and they landed in your website. They have to find really fast a way for booking the tickets that they are looking for. Then, whenever possible, try to cross-sell with other travel products. So, of course, if you're selling the ticket for a museum, why not try to sell a tour for the visit after, or a tour that includes ticket of the museum? If you are selling the transfer, so you know that a person is going to a destination, why not don't try to sell them tour-end activities for that destination? So keep in mind that if you know how guest journey is built, you have the possibility to cross-sell and interact with different touch points in that journey. Never forget the top attraction. It's important to build your content to be relevant on the search engine like Google, to have some specific keyword, but don't forget that people go in Paris mostly to see the Eiffel Towers. So if you're building your content for Paris, okay, having some niche products to interact with some particular customers, if possible, use a booking widget to be more relevant and keep the customer on your website more that you can. So thank you very much for listening.